This video will cover the Volunteers tab on the Enterprise version. This is where you can add, edit, or delete your volunteers and edit purposes and settings for them. At the top we have Add, Edit, Delete. If you select Add, Edit, Delete, you're able to add, edit, delete the volunteers at this specific school. So make sure that you're selecting your school first here at the top, and then you can click on Add, Edit, Delete. If you already have volunteers imported, you can click on the pencil and paper to edit their information. You can also choose to print specific badges for the volunteers. From this page, you can also add a new person or a new volunteer. To do so, you will just want to click on Add Person and then fill in the information for that volunteer. Anything marked with an asterisk is a required field. For volunteers specifically, you do need the first and last name and the volunteer type at the bottom. Once you're done, you can go ahead and click on Save Changes. Now going back to the Volunteers menu on the left-hand side here, you can edit the volunteer purposes under Purposes. To edit the purposes, all you have to do is click on the pencil and paper next to each purpose, and you're going to type in whatever you want here. If you're using Spanish, make sure that you translate it into Spanish and click on Save Changes. If you want to add a new purpose, you can simply click on Add here. Now going back to the volunteers page, we have the ability to enter offsite hours for volunteers. Make sure that you're selecting your school here at the top first, and then you can click on Enter Offsite Hours. First, you will need to select the volunteer from the list. Then you will need to select the purpose. Then you can select the date. You can open up the calendar here on the right-hand side to select the date. And then you will need to enter the number of hours and minutes. The next thing is to calculate the hours as positive or negative. If you are adding hours, you want to select positive. If you're deducting hours from that volunteer, please select negative. After you've made these changes, go ahead and click on Save Changes. And this will take you back to the Volunteers menu here. The next thing you can do is add an organization. You can just click on Add Organization, and you'll need to fill in the information of that specific organization here. This will just allow you to run reports on that specific organization for the volunteer hours later. Let's go back to the Volunteers tab. At the bottom here, we have some printing and display options and extra settings for your volunteers. The first one is for volunteers to be able to enter their own offsite hours. If you select Yes, volunteers will be able to enter their own offsite hours on the school check-in program. They will be able to see that setting when they go to check in or out. You can also choose to print pictures on the passes if you do have the volunteer pictures imported. You can also set up something called the student access level. If you select Yes, it's going to show some more settings here. These are access levels that you create for the specific volunteers if you have specific designated areas for them to volunteer in. So for example, the level 1 name would go on the left-hand side here. So that could be a code, some letters, or some numbers. On the right-hand side, you want to put the code description, so something such as C for cafeteria. And then you want to make sure that you select print access level on ID badge if you do want it to print on the ID badge of the volunteer. This access level name will print on the ID badge, and that way other faculty and staff know where that volunteer is allowed to be. The next setting that we have is print the school logo or mascot on the ID badge. You can also give volunteers the option to print or not print an ID badge when they check in. The next few notification options here are going to be for your Volunteers Plus, and I will go over Volunteers Plus a little bit later, but these are all notifications for the district admin, the school admin. Any of your admins for school check-in are able to be notified when volunteers make changes, such as signing up or creating a new application. The next option that we have is allow visitor check-in. This will allow the volunteers to check in as a visitor and not only a volunteer. You can select to display limited pick lists for check-in and check-out of the volunteers. The display limited pick list will limit the amount of names that the volunteers can see when they go to check-in or check-out. They will only be able to see any names once they start typing in their own name. If you are using a barcode scanner, you can print the barcode onto the pass, and this would be the checkout barcode so they can check out. And then the last few options or settings here are going to be more of your notification settings for your Volunteers Plus, which will be located at the bottom here. And that concludes this video. To access additional videos, please visit us at schoolcheckin.com.